Good day, I'm Emilia Ruth Claudia. I'm a student college of Class B for Economics Magister in Medan State University 2021. First of all, I want to give thanks to my lecturer, Mr. Andri Zainal, for giving me the time to presentate my qualitative content analysis. Okay, now I would like to explain my qualitative content analysis, and the topic is about country economic growth. Well, for the firstly, I want to explain about description of the paper. The first one is several countries on this research object consist of Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the three of ASEAN countries. They are Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. The secondly is, these papers have two models. 2 papers are causal research and 4 papers are quantitative descriptive research. Next, for the introduction is about a gap research. There are 6 gaps. For the first is, in the short term, human capital has a negative and insignificant effect to economic growth by Banerjee and Roy 2014. The second, the cost of health, life, and education have a negative effect on human capital by Collier and Chalkido 2019. The third is, urbanization has a significant impact on poverty reduction in the surrounding rural areas in Indian districts by Chali and Menon 2013. The next is, innovation policy is still progressing slowly at Asian level by Degelseger, Remeu, and Trienes 2018. The proactive market-oriented has a significant negative effect on MSME performance by Rusgar et al. 2014. MSME is a micro, small, and medium enterprises. In Indonesia, we can say UMKM, usaha mikro, kecil, dan menengah. The last gap is, the cost of education has a negative significant effect on economic growth. The next slide is about the grand theory. There are 3 theories. For the first is the new growth theory. The second is the knowledge-based economy theory. And the third as a main theory based on the endogenous growth theory of human capital. The endogenous growth model in human capital consists of, the first is human capital. Human capital consists of physical capital, human, and labor. And the second endogenous growth model consists of research and development, or R&D. There are technological progress and innovation. The reason that the endogenous growth model I applied as a base theory is because increasing of human capital can affect to increase economic growth as well. Next is about variables. There are 2 parts. The first is independent variables. There are human capital, human resources, technology, innovation, education, labor, health, poverty, urbanization. And dependent variables, there are economic growth, gross domestic product, import value, poverty reduction, market-oriented, and MSME or UMKM performance. Okay, the next slide is explaining about the methods and model research. There are 3 parts, but the firstly is one of study uses the Hausmann's model, and the result is below that. In terms of relationship between GDP value and poverty rate, the coefficient of RAM or random effect model is equal to minus 0.1217214, and that point it is higher than 0.05. So the GDP value does not have a statistically significant relationship with the poverty rate. And next is one of study uses the Chow and the Hausman model. The result is, based on Chow testing, a probability value was obtained. The chi-square cross-section is smaller than the alpha 5%, or this value is 0.0000. That is smaller than 0.05. Meanwhile, in Hausman's test, show that the random cross-section probability value was smaller than the alpha 5%, or this value is 0.0036, where the value was smaller than 0.052. Based on the result of the test, it can be concluded that the best panel data regression estimation model that can be used for the research model is the fixed effect model, or FEM. From this fixed effect model, the estimated results of the influence of human capital on economic growth show a very satisfactory and large R-square value, which is the estimation value is 0.9965. The figure indicates that the variation in change in dependent variables of economic growth can be explained about 99.65% by variations in changes in the independent variables of human capital. So the conclusion is, the ability of independent variables to explain the dependent variables is about 99.65%. Three of studies use the econometric models such as error correction model, or ECM, quantitative threshold autoregressive, and the last is PLS, or partial least square. Next, the conclusion. The conclusions can be explained below. Firstly, the economic growth by the human capital is most significant in Indonesia country. The secondly is the grand theory using endogenous growth theory. And next is about the variables. The first is independent variables. It is a human capital. The reason I apply these variables because the human capital is the main coverage of similar research variables in several papers, namely human resources, innovation, technology, labor, and education. And then the second independent variable is poverty. Okay. The second thing is about dependent variable that can be seen from economic growth, and we can see from gross domestic product, or GDP. The fourth conclusion is, firstly, the data is using the secondary data. The time series is from 1984 until 2019. The collected data is from the World Bank, the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, Indonesian Central Bank, or BI, and BPS, or Badan Pusat Statistik. The last conclusion, the econometric model is using error correction model, or ECM. Well, that is the presentation of my qualitative content analysis. I say thank you and greetings to all of us. Thank you.